Nothing happens by coincidence. Guess what I just saw on my timeline notifications of videos? Y'all know who Laura Eisenhower is? Okay, look her up on YouTube, Laura Eisenhower. She's been in the spiritual community, sort of like a whistleblower, or this is how I do it. When I listen to somebody else that I'm prompted to go listen to, okay, or if you will, experience their information, I'm experiencing their information that's going to be translated through the difference in how I perceive information, which represents data transfer as a result of the electrons in which that data is transferred, which is information. Okay? So it's always going to be boiled down to how much light are you running on. Well, I have the capacity to be able to read that. Okay? Whether you're on the internet and you're speaking to me, I can read your voice print, which is all the frequencies that go to the core identity of the operator, the vehicle that's communicating with me. So I can sort of see where you're at on what's known as the spectrum, the electromagnetic spectrum, okay, of who you are that represents whether you're native Indian to this planet, which means are you one of the children of Mother Earth? Or are you an ET walk-in wearing a skin suit? Are you a hybrid? Who are you? And this is where we get down into what's called information transfer, which is sort of knowledge transfer, but you get to decide based on you whether or not you want to experience that data, whether you want to experience that information, because that's what they're doing. They're communicating to you who they are. They're communicating to you information that represents the information that they're presenting. If the information they're presenting, and I become aware of that, don't want to become aware of it because I don't want to experience it, what do I do with it? Clear the cache, the same way that you clear the cache in a phone, a laptop, or a desktop computer, right? So you're a processing terminal of information that comes to us through electrons. So that's one of the reasons why they had a war on women's boobs. Because when a baby is getting mother's milk, that's data transfer. The data that is in the immune system that is in that milk as a result of all the data that the mother experienced through her life cycle goes all the way back down the female mitochondria to the very beginning, which is the first mother. Right? Right. Okay? It's held in memory. So it's all data, which is all electronic data, okay? Because it's an electromagnetic universe. You live in an electronic universe, electric universe. So all the information that travels, that's why the neurotransmitters of the heart has a mind of its own. So when you're in a spiritual war, I'm not going to use the head because they know how to hack that. Okay? Hacking the mind. Okay? So when you're in a war like this, which is an information war, which is an electrical war, which is a frequency war, it's no different than having an onboard ham radio. Tune that shit out. Oh, I think I'll hold that in memory. Why? Because I might need to use it later. In order to do what? Present information, because you have information that's in their head. So when you're able to hold on to the information that they're aware of, you're aware of what they're aware of, but you're aware of a lot more than that. So if you can impart the information that represents all the data that you're aware of to them, they become aware of more data. That allows them to have a perception of a much larger puzzle that they can go, wow, you just snapped a big ass puzzle in place, and now I get it. That's the morphogenetic field structure, which means you're aware of how that works, which is similar to the experiment that was done with the game that was invented, as I remember it, with children in Los Angeles that was exported after they mastered all the skill sets, which is higher intelligence by learning, right? Through a bigger teacher, if you will. And that bigger teacher, which is now more intelligence because she's operating on more information is held within that light, those children in China became aware of the higher intelligence as a result of what it learned. That doesn't have to start over again at the beginning like the other children did in order to be aware of what the children in LA were aware of when they reached the highest skill set, which means they mastered it. They don't have to go through it. That's called intelligence. The intelligence of the cosmos. There's a process and work in place in which the higher evolution of information processing is to learn from bigger teachers. Okay, so that's why I thought to myself, take that professor at MIT who's teaching physics, put him out into the real classroom of a much larger body of intelligence that's holding more light, in which all that information is being transferred through the girl on the planet. Right? He doesn't do that. That's what the Indians do. That's what the clans and the tribes do. Okay? Take them for a nature hike. Show them how it works. How a vortex works. How a spiral works. How love works. How light works. Okay? That's called a demonstration model. Okay? Because the basic question is, how does this earth maintain all of its biospheric systems, which is a basic life support system because it's a living organism? Wow, who's running the physics in this planet? It certainly isn't a physics professor at MIT. It's a bigger physics professor, and it's a girl. It's a female, a highly intelligent and creative female, okay, that is the great living spirit in Mother Earth. How long does it take a child to figure that out? Once the child's got that figured out, I think that child would rather learn from a bigger mother who's holding on to higher intelligence and creativity. So the title of her video was called Bifurcation of the Timeline. Now, I covered that in a previous video, okay, that talks about what does your timeline look like? Well, that depends on how much acid you're running, right? If you're running a big-ass fatty acid storage container, like there's a guy, it's very sad, it's painful actually, and it's an example to a teacher of how the programming works. Because here's a gentleman that's in his early 20s, he's probably somewhere in the neighborhood of about 340 pounds, I guess, and he's in his early 20s. He doesn't have hardly any energy, and I ask him from time to time just simple questions to sort of get a baseline of what he's learned throughout the course of his life. And I realized that when I asked him if he knew who NSA was, who CIA was, no, I don't know who that is. You ask him basic questions, and it's like, doesn't know. And I'm thinking, even, did you ever go to junior high school or high school just to learn some basic stuff that's out there? There's another guy that's in here that all he does all day long is play games. He's probably in his 40s, and you're saying, well, you're making a judgment. No, what I'm doing is I'm sharing with you an observation that I'm making from a teacher and a student perspective. Because with me, as a teacher, what it tells me by what I'm observing is what happened here. It's another measurement.